new world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. Today is the Friday edition. It is December 14th, 2012. And I had a different show planned today, but I put that on the back burner due to events that have taken place today. There was another mass school shooting, or shooting, I should say, or another school shooting with mass casualties. And I think it's 27 or 28 people were killed, including many of them children, small kids. I think around the ages of like 4, 5, 6, around that area. A very horrible thing. It's just words can't describe how horrific it is. But what's even more horrific is the psyop that was being played on the people today afterwards. And I'm not saying that the event itself was a psyop, because I don't have any evidence, or I should say I have not seen evidence yet to support that. Time will tell. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's too early for me to, say, well, MK Ultra, mind control, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes bad things really do happen. I don't know if it's MK Ultra, mind control, whatever. I can say that the kid was probably on some sort of I'll be willing to bet. I'll rephrase that. I'll be willing to bet money that he was on some sort of psychotropic drug of some sort. But what's really disgusting is the way the politicians and everything are coming out, and they are ramrodding an anti-gun agenda. And whether or not they staged this event, or whether or not they're just using it, as Rahm Emanuel said, you never let a good crisis go to waste, they are pushing an agenda. And right off the bat, it's, guns, 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 guns are bad. Everybody be afraid of guns. It's the appeal to emotion because of the loss of all those innocent children's lives, which is horrific. It's absolutely a horrific, horrific thing. I feel for those parents. I mean, like I said, words can't describe. But Obama going on television and wiping away fake tears on TV. Now, who's more despicable? Who's more despicable? The gun maker or the president that goes on TV and fakes tears, wiping away with his fingertip? I watched the video repeatedly. He didn't look like he had any tears in his eyes. And let us not forget, ladies and gentlemen, if there was a tear and his eyes, if his eyes looked red to you, let us not forget that everybody jumped on Glenn Beck when he put fake tears in his eyes and went out and did the fake crying thing. You don't think Obama could have done the same thing? Oh, no, he's not. He's not capable of that, Popeye. He wouldn't do that. Only Glenn Beck would fake crying on TV, right? For effect, right? And it's not like they couldn't fake it. Fake crying is done all the time right in front of you on television, shows, and everything else. You can tell me you think that they couldn't have made him fake cry? And by the way, his fake cry was pathetic. Putting his finger into the corner of his eye, wiping away faux tear. What do you keep hearing from everybody? We got to ban guns. We have to do something now. Time is now. These children died because of guns. No, those kids died, okay, because of some sick individual who got into the school and shot them. And by the way, I want to touch on this before I forget, because there's a ton of things I'm going to jam into tonight's broadcast for you. But let's go over some of the facts here. How about the guy wouldn't have been able to get into the school had somebody not buzzed him in? What? What did I say? Oh, yeah, it's in news reports. You should go check it out. You see, the school was on lockdown already. I'll repeat that. The school was already locked down. You can't get in unless you get buzzed in. Well, apparently, this kid was buzzed in the door. So there goes your gun control argument right out the window, because the school was already in a lockdown mode where you had to be buzzed in. It was an electronic lock. Somebody had to buzz you in from the main office. Obviously, there's cameras there. They see you. Why would you buzz somebody in with two pistols and what they said he was wearing combat gear, right? He took his parents legally, and that's a key word right there, because they keep saying that. They were legally purchased firearms. They're not illegal. You see, they say that only criminals use illegal guns, but they're using legal guns to do things. He stole his mother's legally registered weapons. We have to ban pistols. See, they love to bring up the AR-15, but he never brought the AR-15 into school. Reports are saying that it was found in a car in the parking lot, in the back seat of the car. So he only brought the two pistols in with him. So now it's not ban assault rifles. Now it's ban pistols. Period. All guns need to be banned. They need to go. Got to get rid of them. We need to be afraid of them. And while we're at it, we should ban spoons, pencils, breathing, cars, driving, headphones, MP3 players. Cell phones and actually MP3 players probably kill more people each year than guns do, because people are not paying attention, texting, listening, whatever, dicking around. They walk into traffic, or they fall off of a train platform, or whatever the case may be. Go look it up. It happens all the time. So should we ban cell phones too? I guess so. We should ban MP3 players, air, walking, because people trip. When I've seen people have heart attacks while, not seen personally, but you know of. People like Elvis supposedly had a heart attack while going to the bathroom. So I guess that could cause heart attacks and kill people, right? So I guess we should outlaw pooping. So you've got to hold it. I mean, this is how ridiculous this gets. It's not the gun that kills the people. It's the sick person that kills the people. And by the way, what about the Chinese guy that walked into a Chinese school, a day and a half ago with a knife and stabbed 22 children with a knife? Well, there goes your gun control fight and argument right out the window, because this guy didn't have a gun, and yet he walked in and still stabbed 22 children. So I guess they should ban knives too. But what happens if the guy had a fork? Well, then he could have still walked in and stabbed them with a fork. Or if he had a pen or a pencil or a spork or a stick that he sharpened with a knife. Oh, but I guess if they ban knives, he wouldn't have been able to whittle that stick. So maybe in that scenario you'd be okay. But what happens if he took the wood and rubbed it against a piece of rock in like a circular pattern and sharpened the edge of the stick that way and then stabbed somebody to death? I mean, hey, caveman didn't have guns, but they killed people and they killed each other back in the day. Do you think they banned clubs and rocks and rock tools? They had like a big town council meeting and they were like, Og killed Og too. So I'm sure they probably didn't have really many names to pick from back then. I'm just trying to Add a little humor to a dark subject. But anyway, you think about it like that. You really think they had like town council meetings or whatever, or the caveman news or whatever? We must ban rock tools, must ban rocks, must ban sticks. Og killed other Og with rock. Oh no, end of world. Must be safe. Must ban rocks. Must ban sticks. I mean, hello? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to be any safer, okay? So stop it. And if you don't think they have an agenda, they do, okay? Like I said, I don't know if this thing has been it might come out in a couple days that it's, an MK Ultra event, whatever. I don't know that right now, so I can't say whether it is or not. What I can say is that the powers that shouldn't be and people with an agenda against you having a firearm to protect yourself are going to appeal to the mass public's emotion, and they are going to play on the fact that these children died. And the media are sick sons of bitches because they're just lapping it up that all these kids died because they're playing on everybody's emotion and throw it in your face. We should ban guns. We should ban guns. How about we ban drone strikes because we drop bombs on people in Pakistan and Yemen and Afghanistan every day where we'll kill 200 people just to kill one supposed terrorist. And we'll kill 200 people at a wedding, a joyous family event, and we'll kill like 200 people. Again, I'll say it. Like 200 people in one strike we'll take out. We'll take out an entire family. Generations and generations. We don't care. But it happens here in our country, and oh my God. Got to ban guns, take away everybody's civil liberties. Blah. I don't see a call to ban drones. Shouldn't we ban drones? What happens the first time they use a drone here in the country to hit somebody? Then we'll see how many people get pissed off. But I want to remind everybody, when I say that they have an agenda, let's remember what Rahm Emanuel said. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Oh, you think I'm making it up? Mr. Emanuel would never say that. He would never say such a thing.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. I think America as a whole in 1973 and 1974, not just my view, but obviously the administration, missed the opportunity to deal with the energy crisis that was before us. For a long time, our entire energy policy came down to cheap oil. This is an opportunity. What used to be long-term problems, be they in the healthcare area, energy area, education area, fiscal area, tax area, regulatory reform area, things that we had postponed for too long that were long-term are now immediate and must be dealt with.
Wow. Things that we've postponed must be dealt with because now a crisis has happened and we have to take advantage of this crisis and never let a good crisis go to waste. This is Obama's former chief of staff, current mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. Just heard it right out of his mouth. You just heard it right from his mouth. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Never, ever, ever let a good crisis go to waste. Can't have that, right? Disgusting. All right, so what we know is we really don't know anything, right? We know that this guy went in. We know he killed his mother. Apparently, she was not shot in the school, by the way. She was a teacher at the school, but apparently she was killed at home. And then the kid went to the school. So why go to the school? Now, there was reports that his father was killed too, and then there's reports that the father's alive, but it was another male body that they found at another residence that's connected to this case. So I don't know about that. Remember, sometimes things change and it's a little bit fluid. And then, of course, there is the report that he went to the school and he was buzzed in. Now, again, I want to repeat that. No gun control law, none, taking away guns from everybody in this country, requiring people to turn their weapons in and make themselves defenseless, will not stop somebody from going into a school and killing children, especially if when they have locks on the doors and you have to be buzzed in by school officials and they buzz you in the door. Okay, I don't know how many times I can repeat that. They buzz the door, the shooter comes in. Hello? And I'm not saying, oh, it's an inside job, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, if they buzz the door and let the kid in, all of your gun control rules and regulations, all of them, first of all, it doesn't matter. The kids stole the guns, right? So the mother had them legally purchased, but the kids stole them. So, okay, again, there goes your laws. The law didn't stop him. There's already regulations and laws up in Connecticut. Did they stop him at all from getting those guns? No. So what's of course, the politician's answer is we need tighter gun laws. Rah! No. Obviously, gun laws didn't work. And a police state didn't work because your school was on lockdown and the kids still got through your security because they let them in. Hello? Is anybody paying attention to any of this? I mean, they keep coming out with, we need a bigger police state, no guns, oh my God. Bah! You could have had 50 cops at the school, but if they let the guy in the door, I mean, how? Do you see my point? The school was already locked. The kid couldn't have gotten in. And then I saw a thing on CNN. They're doing a timeline, and CNN was trying to literally play this whole fact down, even though it was being reported already earlier that they had buzzed him in. Nope, CNN was trying to play down that fact. We're not sure how he got into the school. But moving on. But, that's not an important fact of how he got into the school? Maybe we should look into that. See, they want you to think that the school was just open and that this horrific guy came marching in, dun, 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 with his guns, dun, 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 rah. They let him in. So who is the idiot that buzzed the guy with the weapons? I mean, does anybody pay attention to the camera? I'm sure between walking in the front door and shooting everybody, and from the picture I saw where everything happened, the front entrance is right by the main office, and it all happened in that area right there. So what did he come get past through the door and then crouch down and don all of his gear and pull his guns out and everything else? I mean, did they not look at the camera and see the kid standing there with weapons and dressed weird and say, well, you don't go to school here anyway. You're 20. Why do you need to be here? Because maybe his mom was a teacher there. Okay. So maybe they go, oh, that's just whatever his name is. They let him in. But didn't they see the guns in his hand? Didn't they see the way he was dressed? Supposedly he was dressed with a shooter's vest. I like how the mainstream media and CNN, MSNBC, and Fox and all these other morons, he was dressed in combat type gear and wearing a shooter's vest. Well, I mean, anything could be a shooter's vest. A vest with pockets, with me putting ammo in it. I guess technically that's a shooter's vest, right? It could be a vest I bought at like JCPenney. But if it's got pockets and I throw ammo in it, I guess that's a shooter's vest, right? You see how they use little terminology? They make things up. We have to get rid of these semi-automatics. Semi-automatics, you can just fire indiscriminately as many shots as you want. No, semi-automatic means you pull the trigger and the action slides back. It fires around. The action slides back, ejects the shell. Then one brand new round comes up back. It comes up into the chamber. The action slides forward. Boom, you're ready to go. You squeeze the trigger. Same thing happens again. Bullet flies out the front, action slides back, shell gets ejected. That's semi-automatic. Do you know what's one step below that? Double action pistols. Do you know what's one step below that? Single action pistols. And what's one step below that is muskets. Okay? When they throw the term semi-automatic out there to scare the living crap out of everybody. Oh my God! Semi-automatic. Oh. You have to squeeze the trigger each time you want to fire a shot. Okay, fully auto is only for the military, and I'm sure some police agencies have them, if not many of them. But military has full auto. Okay, most civilians don't have access to full auto. You can get full auto. It is not illegal. You have to get a tax stamp. Of course, the tax stamp is ridiculously expensive. In the case of a guy I know that had a saw, not a wood saw, a squad automatic weapon. He had one for, 5 or 6 years, and he was a gun dealer. And every year he had to pay like $18,000. It was like around, I think it was like 18 grand, he said, somewhere around there, for the tax stamp. And he owned the weapon. And when he decided to not pay the tax stamp and not renew it, after 5 or 6 years, whatever it was, he said, I'm tired of it. I'm not gonna deal with it. They came, and the ATF came to his gun shop. Now he's a firearms dealer. They came to his gun shop. And they took it. They said they knew he didn't pay his tax stamp. And they will come and take it. Now, think about that for a minute. You can have a fully automatic weapon as long as you pay $18,000 a year for that weapon in the form of a tax to the federal government. That's okay. They don't mention that. And by the way, not everybody has that access to that type of money to be able to afford that. This guy obviously at the time was making money, so he could get away with that. But the point is, this guy's a gun shop owner. And he had to pay almost $20,000 a year for one tax stamp for one fully automatic weapon. He even told me it wasn't worth it. He even, I would sit and chat with him about it, and I said to him honestly, is it worth being able to have that gun and go out to because you can't go to a regular range with that thing either. Obviously, you have to go to an outdoor range, and sometimes you have to go to a special outdoor range because most outdoor ranges won't allow fully automatic fire. Because most everybody has semi-automatic handguns or rifles or whatever. So you have to find specialty ranges or know somebody where you can go out and unload 1,000 rounds out of that thing. And do you know how much that costs? I mean, honestly, for the average owner, the average citizen in this country, you can't own a fully automatic weapon. It's not really financially feasible. I mean, there are certain hoops you could jump through and this, that, the other thing. But seriously, you're not going to be able to afford that. Come on. Some people only make $18,000 in a year. And this guy was paying that in the form of a tax stamp. Let's be realistic. 99.9% of gun owners out there are not running around with fully automatic weapons. Yeah, there is some stuff that, if you see these gun shoots that people have fully automatic weapons, that's cool. I guarantee you those people are paying for tax stamp on that weapon. And that's cool that they have the gun, whatever. More power to them. You see somebody out there with like a Browning, tear it up. But the average everyday person does not have access to that. And I know semi-automatic assault rifles sound scary, but if you take, let's say they make rifles that are 22 caliber, right? Well, you can make it look just like an AR-15 and all military-ish. It's still a 22 caliber rifle. Don't judge the book by its cover. We're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, got some audio for you to listen to about gun control and how guns actually have saved people. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on. 1995, Attorney General Eric Holder, quote, "We must brainwash people on guns." I want you to hear this audio clip really quick, and you'll understand why they come at you. And again, this isn't saying that this event was fake or anything, or MK Ultra or anything like that, or mind control or whatever anybody wants to try to put on it right now. I don't know. With all these other mass shootings in the past that I've dissected, I've always said you got to wait a few days so you could take in all the evidence and find out whether or not this really was something that did happen. Because hey, maybe this kid did snap, because he was on medication or anything else, and it wasn't really, a contrived incident. But how they handle it, their reaction, is very telling. And I want to play this clip, this audio from 1995 of Eric Holder, and let's listen to what he has to say about guns and about making people formulate new opinions about guns.
And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make it something that's not cool, that it's not acceptable, it's not hip to carry a gun anymore. In the way in which we've changed our attitudes about cigarettes. When I was growing up, people smoked all the time. I mean, both my parents did. But over time, we changed the way in which people thought about smoking. And so now we have people who cower outside of buildings and kind of smoke in private and don't want to admit it.
You see how he first of all, he pokes fun at cigarette smokers, says everybody that, they're cowering outside. Well, they didn't choose to be put outside like lepers. Let's remember that. But now he says that they're cowering outside because they don't want anybody to know that they're smokers. So now what he wants people to do, their attitude, and that's what they're trying to do, to this very day, is get people to be like, ooh, you like guns? Ooh, it's icky to like guns. Oh, it's not hip. It's not trendy to like guns.
And that's what I think we need to do with guns. Really change the way in which people think about guns. Now, this is not going to be something that's very easy to do because we are, quite frankly, fighting something that appears, every day on television, on the radio, in our popular music, in movies that these kids are exposed to. It will be an effort that will entail things that I'm really not familiar with. I think I'm a pretty good lawyer, but we need to get really innovative, creative things that are going to grab the attention of these kids and change, as I said, the way in which they think about guns. And so what I've asked is that the creative community in Washington, those ad agencies that create these snappy ads and make me buy things that I don't really need, devote that talent in a more constructive way so we can get at the minds of these young people. This informational campaign, I've also called on the newspapers and the television stations to devote to us time and space so that we can get these ads, so we can use these spots, and not to give us 1, 2 o'clock in the morning ads when nobody's watching, but at the time when people, particularly young people, are watching television, so that when they're watching, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or whatever else they watch, and I watch those things once in a while, so that they'll see these ads and they'll be grabbed by these ads. I've also asked people who have influence over youngsters, entertainers, athletes, to be involved in this program as well. But not only them, community leaders, Jesse Jackson, Mayor Barry, people who have credibility with young people should be on the television, on the radio, as much as we possibly can, and telling these youngsters that it's wrong to carry a gun, and that if you have information about people who are carrying guns, you've got to share that with Chief Thomas and with his people as well. I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way. We also want to have a hotline that we will set up and have the number of that hotline that you would just go out there, and that would be something that people would have emblazoned in their minds so that when they see a gun or become familiar about the facts of a gun crime, they would call that hotline and pass that information on. I want to have
a gun crime. A gun crime. I like how they throw out catchy little phrases. A gun crime. Well, what happens when the federal government kicks in a door and shoots people? Or, in the war on drugs, they kick in a door and they shoot someone's dogs and they end up shooting their kid or whatever. Isn't that a gun crime? Or how about when a cop shoots a woman, a pregnant woman, for not signing a ticket? Or no, I think they tasered the pregnant woman. They shot, I think she was a church Sunday school teacher or something like that, or she was a school teacher in a church parking lot. I think it was what that one was. They tased the pregnant. I'm sorry, they only tased the pregnant lady, so I guess that's acceptable. But they shot the other one who, I guess she wouldn't roll her window down for the cop, if I remember correctly. But that's not a gun crime, right? Attorney General Holder. We have to brainwash people. What do you think they're doing right now? Appeal to emotion. It's a horrific thing what happened to those children. But what they're doing is they're playing with your mind. You just heard him say in 1995, we have to figure out a new way to do it. And he mentioned, they let it out of the bag a lot. You just have to go back and pay attention to what they're talking about and what they've said in the past. Okay. He mentions Jesse Jackson, who's one of the first people out there to stir it whenever a black youth is shot. It could be, and it's usually if it's shot by somebody that they could try to race bait with, somebody that looks like they're a different color. Even Zimmerman, the thing with Trayvon. What's his name? Jackson came down with Sharpton and stirred the pot to a certain extent, right? Well, here's Holder admitting back in 95 that he's asked him to help him push this anti-gun agenda. Well, what do you think he's doing? Just more evidence that they're playing games and that they're trying to cause problems. They're trying to foment fear because at the end of this thing, they need you to be disarmed so they can go and start to do more tyrannical things. Do you think? You don't think they know that they can only go to a certain extent because the citizens are all armed? Don't you find it funny how since Obama's been the president. And Bush, there were gun sales with him too. So, okay, we'll go back to 2004. Between 2004 and now, 8 years. Over the past 8 years, right, this police state is ramped up, right? And this, oh my God, terrorist in your bed and everything else, right? But people have been buying more guns. The sales of guns over the past 8 years alone, between 8 years ago to today, is astronomical, especially since Obama got in office, right? Now, look over the past 8 years. How many mass shootings have we suddenly had, especially in the past 4? How many mass shootings have we had where suddenly there were gunmen all over the place shooting people, and it was always around the time, they seem to happen around the time that there's anti-gun legislation in whatever capacity. And I'm not saying that that's what this case is today. I don't know yet, but it's just very interesting how all of these shootings happen to happen right around the time that all these, you have controversial gun control laws coming up, or people trying to push for gun control, or this or that, the other thing. Remember, Obama's talked about an executive order in the past on gun control, so this would give him the emotional oomph behind it, right? Doesn't that just stink to anybody? It does to me. Just like all these, since Obama got in office, when Bush was in, you had what? I think you had one, besides 9/11, I think you had one or two other fake terror events. But since Obama's got in office, the FBI has been, quote unquote, foiling terror plots one after another, right? The past like 4.5 years. Even going back into the Bush administration. I'm not trying to say that it's Obama and Bush was a great guy. Now, they're all puppets. But in the past 4.5 years, you have this ramping up of quote unquote homegrown terrorism, right? You have this ramping up of quote unquote terrorist attacks where you have Al Qaeda, who are now citizens and they live here, or they're here on student visas or whatever. But they're the underwear bomber and the moron in New York City, or the guy that tried blowing the Portland Christmas tree thing up a couple years ago, or all these would be bombers, the Liberty City 7 down here in Miami. All these patsies, these FBI provoked cases. You have this high amount of this, right? This ramping up of this in the past 4.5 years. Same thing with all these mass shootings. One has to look at it and say, who benefits from this? Who benefits? Right? And by the way, again, taking away the guns aren't going to do anything, because if the guy had a chainsaw, he could have walked in there and just chainsawed everybody. He could have, Texas Chainsaw massacred people. If people are taught to be victims, it doesn't matter what you attack them with. They're going to be a victim no matter what. So you could beat somebody to death with a fluffy bunny. I mean, right? You could smother them with the thing. As long as they're taught to be the victim and not fight back and to cower and go, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me, you could smother them with a fluffy bunny. And it could be pink, and it could be, a big pink fluffy bunny that somebody won at a fair. And, it's a happy, joyous thing. But the fluffy bunny just killed the guy. So I guess we have to ban fluffy bunnies now. And fairs, because it was won at a fair. See how spiraling out of control that goes? It's insane. Okay, I want to play a clip for you. It's about 9 minutes, but it's something that not many people have heard. Everybody always loves to talk like Piers Morgan, where I come from, we banned handguns and the crime went down, blah, 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 blah. Well, Piers Morgan is a liar. Okay, I'm going to play some audio to crap all over his parade. This is a warning from the people in the UK to the people of the United States about giving up their weapons, because they gave up theirs. And it starts off with a protest where you hear them, now it's gotten to the point where, and at the time, I don't know, this is the video itself, that the version I'm going to play, I know dates back to 2009. And it could be even a little older. It might go back to 2008, but it's within the past 4 years. Okay, and now they're trying to ban, or at the time they were, when it was shot, they were trying to ban fox hunting, not because of protecting the fox, but because of the gun used to hunt the fox, and that's what it had gotten to. So listen to what people in the UK, who, interestingly enough, in Australia and in the UK, how were guns banned, ladies and gentlemen? After mass school shootings, and after mass shootings involving children. Just saying. Check this out. It's a message from the people in the UK to the people of the United States about giving up our firearms.
Our freedom is at stake.
People want freedom. They want to be able to hunt.
Liberty is the word.
Everything is going, our traditions, and this is what we're fighting for.
They marched in protest, a silent procession of a people grasping for one last chance to resist, shamefully admitting they only have themselves to blame for government policies that threaten their way of life, their security, and the future of democracy in Britain.
We've been very apathetic for years, and now we're paying the price for it.
It's a disgrace, really. And we've seen these fundamental liberties eroded in the last 20-odd years in England, all sorts of legislation that should never have appeared.
Sportsmen and shooters fooled by politicians into thinking that England's age-old tradition of fox hunting would never be targeted or banned. Now realizing, perhaps too little too late, that their traditions are no more secure than their freedom.
This isn't about banning fox hunting. This is about the liberty of the individual to choose for him or herself what they do.
A future that's in doubt, and the largest peaceful protest in British history to try to change that has got many asking, where were these voices 6 years ago when there was an outright ban on handguns and pistol shooters were forced to surrender their firearms, confiscated by the government to be destroyed?
We hear people saying the proposed ban on fox hunting is the thin end of the wedge. I am a pistol shooter. As far as I'm concerned, we've already swallowed the wedge. And where does it go next?
Liberties that have already been sacrificed for the politicians' false promise of a safer society. Gun bans that, as predicted, have simply backfired.
We've seen about a 40% increase in firearms crime since the ban was introduced. That is not a success in my book.
Well, we need to be armed. You know, we're not safe any longer. Everything is changing.
It's very simple. The authorities have no way of controlling criminals, so they control the law-abiding because we're an easy target.
And now, some members of Parliament are questioning the government's anti-gun agenda, an agenda that has, without a doubt, failed.
The use of weapons in crime has risen dramatically. And it's very difficult to get government departments to openly accept the fact.
Politicians refusing to face the facts, while the police are forced to every day.
It's totally out of control.
This police officer, who feared he'd lose his job for speaking out, asked to remain anonymous. He said for the first time ever, bobbies are carrying firearms, but they're still outgunned by criminals who can buy whatever they want on the black market.
Every officer now in this country gets issued with body armour. When I joined the police service back in the 80s, we didn't have any of this. We had a wooden truncheon and a set of chain link handcuffs. The firearms laws have been tightened up since. Why do we still need this equipment? Simply because the criminals have the weapons and they're prepared to use them.
Gun policy's gone tragically wrong, and police morale at an all-time low.
I feel let down by the politicians, by the senior management in the police. I feel at present I cannot give the public the service they demand and expect.
And as this officer made very clear, it's a law built on a lie.
The politicians, basically, they have misled the public. They said, if we ban handguns, the country's going to be a safer place. They ban the handguns, the country is not a safer place. Why are British people not to be trusted? And I think that says a lot about the government.
Citizens left defenseless, now victims of the very laws passed to protect them, and asking how many more Tony Martins will there be. Martin, a Norfolk farmer, was forced to protect himself when no one else would, not the police and not the British justice system. What happened at this farmhouse owned by Tony Martin 4 years ago has struck a real nerve, not only in this country, but internationally. 2 men broke into Tony Martin's house. Both of them were shot. One of them was killed. And the man who fired that gun, Tony Martin, was initially sentenced to life in prison for murder. But many people think Tony Martin should never have spent 1 day in jail. They say he was just an innocent man protecting himself
and his property.
Tony should not be in a jail. Not for what he did. He was perfectly within his rights, in my view, to look after his own property and his own life.
My thoughts is that I would do exactly the same, put in the same situation. I would not hesitate to do exactly the same.
I personally believe that, if you're in your own house and people come in, then they should expect whatever they get.
Everybody around was saying the same thing. You must have a right to defend yourself. It has gone too far, swung so far in favor of the criminal.
Criminals like those in Tony Martin's case, who were no strangers to the law. 16-year-old Fred Barris, who was killed, already had 29 convictions. And 30-year-old Brendan Farron had 34 convictions and had been in prison for burglary. He was sentenced to 3 years for trying to break into Tony Martin's home. But after only serving 18 months, he's free while Tony Martin remains in jail. And he's now threatening to sue Martin using taxpayers' dollars.
The system is on the side of the criminal, not on the side of the victim. You go and rob somebody and then sue them because they've damaged you. It's a little absurd.
The injustice of a justice system. And although Tony Martin has had his life sentence reduced to manslaughter, he still sits behind bars here at High Point Prison in Suffolk, England, counting the days until he's released. I was the first reporter from the United States allowed to visit with Tony since he's been in prison. And although no cameras were allowed, I was able to talk with Tony by phone. And what you're about to hear is Tony Martin in his own words about that fateful night.
Well, I've never really said it publicly before, but I've had a pretty raw deal. I personally think it's very, very wrong for somebody to have to live in their house in fear, but for some unknown reason, there are people in this country who don't know the difference between defending yourself, protecting yourself, and malice aforethought. I thought it was the people that came in the house that were malice aforethought.
Chief Constable of Norfolk said that Tony shouldn't have used his gun, that he should have yelled for help while he was in the isolated location. I could scream furthermore and nobody would hear me at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just a nonsense, I do believe.
It could have quite well been the dead man, because there's no question. The police in this area is totally inadequate. I mean, we get little or no support.
Police protection, residents here say they can't count on. And they're fed up with being denied the right to defend themselves.
We've been broken into several times before. And most of the people around here at one stage or another has either been broken into or had an attempt to do so.
This wasn't the first time you had a problem.
No, it was the third time this year that somebody had broken the house, yeah. You actually become a prisoner in your own house.
I have every sympathy. I genuinely do. But I can't say that the law shouldn't be what the law was. What I can say now is that because of that, we ought to review that particular law.
I think the Americans have a saying about it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Tony Martin tried that venture. He was judged. He is in prison. The story is not yet finished.
And neither is the story of a struggle to reclaim rights these honest citizens have already lost. Costly mistakes of trusting in a government that has left them unprotected. Their message to gun owners in America is simple. It will happen to you if you let it.
Jolly well could, and they ought to realise that. If they saw what we are seeing in this country, then they'll fight for it.
But if you don't do anything, you will lose your liberties, and make the effort. Don't be apathetic. Get out there and fight.
Learn from our experience and don't give an inch. Your Constitution matters, your freedom matters.
The Pericles said it way before me. Freedom is only for those who have the guts to defend it.
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? That's right from the people of the UK, who are now unarmed.
This is Sparta!
You just heard them say to you, do not give up your rights. Hour 1 up, hour 2 coming up. Don't buy into the crap. Don't let them play your emotions. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is December 14th, 2012. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. And tonight we're talking about this very tragic event that took place over in Connecticut. And apparently, I think it's 27 or 28 people. I'm not sure of the exact number, so I'll say 27 or 28 because it could fluctuate. People have passed away because of the shooting. I believe 20 of them are small children, which is horrific. And my broadcast tonight is in no way trying to downplay or diminish the deaths of the people or those poor innocent children. And that's one of the reasons I haven't jumped on, oh my God, I think the guy was mind controlled or anything, because I don't know yet. That would be really idiotic for me to do. But I can attack the way that the politicians and the talking heads are going at it and responding to it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put a little bit of sensibility out there, because right now they're playing on everybody's emotion and they're playing on everybody's fear. You see some sort of, they're saying there was a spontaneous protest outside the White House calling for President Obama to take action. I get some creative camera angles and 20 or 30 people, rounded up. I mean, and that could be like people that work for whatever crew that put the thing together. That could have been, I don't know if that was spontaneous. I'll just say I don't believe any of that garbage. So the stuff that if they are interviewing people on the street, I have seen like on the street interviews, and some people, the people that they choose to air will say, oh, we have to do something about this. This is horrible. That's actually not how most people in this country feel, believe it or not. Most people in this country understand. But they're going after the youth and the people that don't feel that way. And then what they're doing is they're also attacking the sensibilities of even people that like guns, because nobody can get behind little children getting slaughtered innocently. Nobody can get behind that, right? Nobody can say, I love kids getting shot, but nobody. It's a horrific thing. So what better way to attack something that you want to get rid of, but by taking advantage of a situation? Now, again, I don't have any proof right now or any evidence that this was staged. You'd have to, we got to wait. We got to look into it. But it is very coincidental that this type of thing happens. But if it is something that just happened to happen, which, I don't really buy into that all the time. In fact, most of the time. But if that's what happened, again, it's the response to it that is really criminal. And you can see they're just pushing an agenda. I mean, the bodies weren't even cold, and they were gun control. And what about the guy in China that like a day and a half ago ran in? And just Google it. Chinese guy stabs 22 school children. It happened, it's what, the 14th of December? So it happened between the 12th and today. So between Wednesday and today, it happened in China, where some dude stabbed 22 kids in a school with a knife. So there goes your whole, if people didn't have guns, people wouldn't get killed argument. I mean, it's stupid. Again, caveman killed each other with rocks. Did they have like little caveman council meetings and, have the caveman president say they're going to ban rock tools and stuff? I mean, it's retarded. Here's a news clip. It's like 1:45 from Fox News about the shooting today at the school, and they explain the story as they know it at the time that the clip aired, it was a little more clear, which is pretty much what I know as of right now. But the reason I'm airing it is because I want you to hear the mainstream media say that the guy was buzzed into the school, so you don't think it's just conjecture. You don't think it's just me bloviating and up here just throwing things out there. Oh no, this is being reported. Listen.
They switched the names. And in fact, 20-year-old Adam Lanza is the shooter. Now, someone was killed in New Jersey. We know that. And then the mother was shot and killed in her home in Newtown, Connecticut. She, of course, is a teacher at the school. She was shot and killed. And there are reports that the weapons that were used in the school shooting were actually registered to the mother. And then police say that is when 20-year-old Adam Lanza went to the school. Some witnesses say he may or may not be developmentally disabled. Went to the school and was somehow buzzed in the front door. Keep in mind, the school was on lockdown. He was buzzed in the front door with 3 weapons. He first walked into the office and opened fire, going after the...
Now, I've heard again that he only walked in with 2 weapons. I've since this came out, I've heard that the third weapon was found in the car. It might be not true, but I've heard that the rifle was left in the car and that he was buzzed in with the pistols. But that's regardless. Even if he had 3 weapons on him, that's even worse. So the guy's carrying an AR-15 in his hands at the front door of a school where they have a camera and they have to buzz you in. They have to see who you are, right? And they buzzed him in. So according to this report from Fox News, the guy had 3 of his weapons on him, not the 2, not just the 2. Like I said, it's come out since then that there was only 2 weapons, right? Now that they're saying he had 3 weapons on him and he was buzzed in. Listen, I rewound it. I'll let you listen to that again. Listen.
Or may not be developmentally disabled, went to the school and was somehow buzzed in the front door. Keep in mind, the school was on lockdown.
You just heard him say he was buzzed in. Keep in mind, the school was on lockdown already. So all of your gun control laws, all of your cowering in the closet, teaching people to be victims, all this garbage, putting up locks on, electric locks on the school so people have to be buzzed in and, looked at through the camera. Obviously, that doesn't work. Obviously, that didn't amount to a hill of beans in this situation, did it? Because apparently the kid still got in and was still able to shoot and kill.
Went to the school. Some witnesses say he may or may not be developmentally disabled. Went to the school and was somehow buzzed in the front door. Keep in mind, the school was on lockdown. He was buzzed in the front door with 3 weapons. He first walked into the office and opened fire, going after the principal and the psychologist and others in that office. And it was during morning announcements, Neil. So what happened was, while the announcements were being made, the rest of the school, the students and the teachers could hear the violence and the gunshots over the school intercom, and then apparently the shooter went to a classroom and opened fire targeting the kids. We now know the death toll is 20 children and 6 adults. The shooter then turned the gun on himself. Now, they have not said exactly why the students may have been targeted, and they do not know exactly what the exact breakdown is. The numbers, as you know, Neil, are confusing in the early going, but we have at least gotten to the bottom of authorities saying the shooter was 20-year-old Adam Lanza. Ryan Lanza apparently is being questioned, and we do not know if the father is involved in this at all, but he's alive. There is somebody dead in Hoboken, New Jersey, and now we are hearing the girlfriend of Ryan Lanza is missing, to add one more twist to this entire thing.
Right. So obviously this guy wasn't just some deranged gunman. I mean, when he was killing those kids, he was, but obviously this even goes much deeper than that. He killed more people. Okay. So, if the one girlfriend is missing, right? There's someone dead in New Jersey. There's a male in New Jersey that's dead. Plus he killed the mother. Then he went to the school. Okay. And now, aside from the fact that he was buzzed in, again, into a school that was already in lockdown, okay? And obviously, whoever buzzed him in was probably the principal or somebody in the main office, and I'm sure that that person, unfortunately, paid with their life for making that mistake. But I don't understand how, if the guy had 3 guns, if he had 3 of them on him, if he walked up looking like something out of an action movie or out of Call of Duty, why would you buzz him into a school? I thought you're not supposed to do that. I thought you're supposed to, protect the kids. I thought that's what it's all about. Well, it doesn't make any sense. But if you look at the fact that he killed other people to begin with, before he even went to the school and shot the kids, there's more to this. It's not just your average, everyday school shooting. There's more to this. Now, it doesn't make sense to me right off the bat why the kid would go to the school. It's interesting that he targeted the principal and the psychologist first, and that if his mother worked there, makes one wonder that he probably went to school there. I wonder if they ever abused him or anything, or if they did anything that not the mother, but if maybe the principal or the, whatever, maybe they put him on drugs when he was younger, and now the kid feels like he's woo. And, who knows? I'm pulling this, out of thin air, but it's just interesting that he targeted. When you try to sit and ponder and put yourself in a person's shoes and wonder why they would do something, at least that's how I would try to deconstruct it. The first thing I would do is I would wonder who the first people he killed, because sometimes it's Depends on the situation. I would have to see it, if it was methodical or just randomly walking in and randomly shooting. I mean, sometimes it's the poor first guy that walks around the corner is the guy that gets clipped. But the way this sounds is like he targeted them first. So who knows? I mean, the whole thing, the timing of it is very convenient. And again, if it is something that really did just happen and it is, coincidence or whatever, well, then it's a horrific, it's something that's horrific, and it's being exploited by the powers that shouldn't be, and politicians and the mainstream media. They are exploiting your emotions and these poor children's deaths to try to get you to believe that banning guns will make you safer and will stop all this from happening. You just heard the audio last hour from the people in the UK where what happened, guns were banned after school shootings and mass shootings of children, right? Same thing in Australia. And what did you hear the people of the UK say? Do not give up your gun rights. Do not give up your guns. Don't give them up. Don't trust the government. The government's going to tell you that it'll make you safer, and it won't. Our crime rates went up. The weapons, the rate of weapons attacks went up because only the bad guys had weapons now, and the weapons laws don't stop them from getting guns and stuff on the streets. They tell you it will, but it won't. And that's the same thing people are told here. But nope, when you mention that, you're hiding behind the Second Amendment. You shouldn't hide behind the Second Amendment, Popeye. I'm not hiding behind anything. Banning guns will not stop people from killing people. Maybe what would stop people from killing people is getting people off of these psychotropic drugs that they're on. Maybe what would stop people from killing people is changing the way people think about each other. Changing, maybe evolving in humanity, evolving in the way we treat one another and we look at one another. We interact with one another. That's how you get rid of violence, okay? Banning stuff doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve anything. Politicians making new laws for things don't solve anything. You know what laws are? Politicians making laws, that's a response to not being able to fix a problem. We can't come up with a solution to a problem because we're not forward thinkers, or we don't care, okay? We don't care enough to even educate ourselves about it. That's what that means. So we're going to make a law. Because whatever it is frightens us, scares us, and we don't know how to deal with it. And that's the mentality of a politician. Politicians never solve problems. When they tell you, I'm going to Washington to solve problems, it's crap. Politicians don't solve problems. Government itself, the term government means mind control, control of the mind. Govern and ment. Ment coming from the word mentis, meaning like mind or man, and govern meaning to like control. So to control the mind. That's what government means. And I don't need more government control over my freedoms because some bad guy did something bad. Again, where did it happen? In a place that guaranteed nobody was able to defend themselves. The mass shooting part of it. I mean, he killed the mother, whoever the person was in New Jersey, and Lord knows what happened to the girlfriend. I mean, that's that aside. The shooting in the school itself, those people were sitting ducks because none of them had any way of protecting themselves. They were set up to be victims right from the get-go. So, of course, where does the mass shooting happen? In a place that people are set up to be victims. How come you never see a mass shooting at a gun show? Wouldn't you expect one? I mean, everybody has guns at a gun show. They're surrounded by guns and bullets and all sorts of stuff and knives and all this. Wouldn't you expect if someone was going to go loony, they would just grab a machete at a gun show or grab a gun at a gun show and grab some ammo and just, oh my God. I mean, if you want to kill mass people, right? Wouldn't that be a place to do it? You have all the ammo and all the weapons galore around you. It's like, all over the place. There's plenty of people if you want to kill innocent people that are doing nothing but shopping, right? There's women, there's children there. If that's what your maniacal thing is, how come they never target a gun show? Gee, I wonder why they wouldn't target a gun show. Because everybody there has access to the same weapons that they do. So it would be a fair fight. And suddenly, they're not big man on campus because they have a weapon anymore. You see how that works? When people want to do this type of thing, whether it's a government sponsored op or whether it's really somebody losing their nuts and just going crazy and losing it, They choose some place to go where everybody else will be lower than them in the protection scale. Do you get my point? People can't defend themselves. If you had like a chart, like a scale of protection, okay, and next to it you had or looking at the chart, you had someone going, well, I want to be a bad guy. Who am I going to pick on this chart? The person that's at the very top that has guns and knows how to use them and isn't afraid to use them, or am I going to pick the person at the bottom that's afraid of guns, doesn't have guns, doesn't believe in guns, and isn't worried about that and thinks the government and the police will save them and protect them from every problem? Well, if I'm a bad guy, I'm obviously going to go after the person on the lower end of the spectrum, aren't I? I'm not going to go after the person that can defend themselves because they're not an easy target. That's the way criminals think. You think criminals want to break into a house and face off with somebody that knows how to shoot and they have a Glock? And it's a 40 cal and the guy's a good shot. Maybe he's a marksman or whatever. Maybe he was in the military. Do you think they want to face off against somebody that can put rounds through the doorway and take him and his idiot friend out before they even get, all the way into the house? Or say if they're already in the house, maybe they get all the way into the bedroom or whatever room you're in? Do you think they want to contend with that? Do you think they want to possibly die for that stereo system? No, they do not. They want to be able to overpower you. They don't want an armed citizen. No criminal wants you to respond to them on an equal plane. Then you're not a victim. You're not set up to be a victim. Now suddenly the tables have turned. That's not what they want. They want you to be unarmed. You know what? I'm going to show you some evidence in the remaining time that we have left in this segment and in the final segment. On the other side of the break, I'm going to show you evidence that armed people can save themselves and save others as well. Really quick, I'm going to play you one clip before we go to break, okay? It's backing up how one armed person saved an entire internet cafe filled with people. One armed person, and it was the guy, if I remember correctly, was a senior citizen. So he was somebody that many people would probably look at today and go, oh, he's defenseless, he's a helpless old man, blah, 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 blah. And here, this old man changed the course of the way things could have gone. It could have gone much worse. People could have gotten hurt. Listen to what happened. All because the guy was armed.
Latest robbery at a local internet cafe is stopped cold, not by police, but by a customer.
Yeah, the armed customer sprang into action when two armed men burst into the Palms Internet Cafe near Ocala Friday night. That customer started shooting. West 2's Michelle Meredith spoke to authorities, and she is live in Marion County with the video. Michelle.
Well, this fellow is 71 years old, and although he did not want to be interviewed, his story is still very much on camera. It was another violent internet cafe robbery, this time in Marion County, and caught on tape. Friday night, two 19-year-olds, one armed with a baseball bat, the other with a gun, burst into the Palms Internet Cafe. The dangerous duo demanded money from the patrons, but the bad guys were in for a surprise. A 71-year-old customer, Samuel Williams, produced his own gun, fired off a few rounds at the suspect, then chased them out the door.
And this guy kept popping. He didn't stop. He just kept popping, So I think he shot both of them.
Both suspects were hit, evidenced by the trail of blood, which earned Davis Dawkins and Dwayne Henderson 2 trips, one to the hospital, the other to jail.
After he started firing, they took off. They fell on top of each other trying to get out of the cafe.
In April of last year, patrons at an internet cafe in Seminole County near Longwood cowered in fear during a very similar robbery attempt. There were masked men, shots fired by the security guard. In this case, one suspect ended up dead, his lifeless body found in a motel parking lot. The city of Longwood put a temporary ban on internet cafes in their city, but the ban did not stick. However, the lone internet cafe in Longwood left town. The bad guys like to rob them. Why?
There's money. There's money involved in businesses like this.
So they banned the internet cafe. You see how they solve no problems? You see how nothing gets solved? And if you go research it, you'll see that the people they interviewed, this happened last year. It was in Ocala, Florida. But you'll see if you research it, the people that they interviewed in the internet cafe, they said that they were glad that the guy was armed, because if he hadn't had a gun, Lord knows what would have happened. Those people could have been shot. The one kid had a gun, and the other kid had a bat. And these children today, these kids today, they don't understand fear like we did when I was a child. They don't understand respect for elders like we did when I was a child. So they're different. They're just a completely different animal. And they're not afraid to do something stupid. Remember, they're this video game generation, too. A lot of these kids don't understand until they do it, and then it hits them, and then they realize. Some of them don't care even afterwards, but a lot of them don't understand that dead is dead. A lot of them suffer from the, can't I just hit reset mentality? I kill my friend online all the time, right? So a lot of them don't think. These kids, and they don't have, they don't have fear or respect. So who knows what could have happened? But those people in that internet cafe said that if it weren't for that armed old man, that 71, 72, whatever, he saved all those people. And all he had was a little pocket pistol, and he was able to defend himself and everybody else. But nope, guns are bad. Guns never save the day, right? Well, I have more stuff to prove that wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a break coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few short minutes. As promised, ladies and gentlemen, I have some more evidence for you to back up what I was saying. How depends on how the gun is used. You can kill somebody with it, or you can also protect your life and other people with it. Just like a hammer can be used to bash someone's brains in or build a house for somebody. It could be used for good or evil. It is not the object. It is the person controlling the object and the intent in their heart. The object is inanimate, therefore it does not have intent. It's very simple. Okay, I want to play a couple more clips because it's the final segment and I don't have that much time. So I have to jam a bunch of stuff in here. First, a 12-year-old girl defends herself with a gun from home intruder.
See this one. An intruder breaks into a home, but he ends up in the hospital after a young girl grabs a gun and shoots.
This is a wild one. It happened in Bryan County Wednesday morning. The 12-year-old girl was home alone when the man broke in. New at 6, News 9's Chris McKinnon joins us with her story. Chris.
Christina and Kelly, the 12-year-old told police she heard the man ring the front doorbell. When she didn't answer the door, he went around to the back and kicked open their back door. That's when she called her mom, who told her to get the family gun, hide in a closet, and call 911.
Okay, I have a deputy en route. I want you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Okay, please. I think they're in the house.
Knowing her daughter was in danger, Deborah St. Clair raced home from work.
I drove home at a really fast pace to try to get to her, and when I got here, the police were already here, and they had the suspect.
That's because St. Clair's daughter shot the intruder as he made his way through the house.
Okay, all right, I understand. Do you still have your mom's gun there? Yes, I do. I have it in my hand.
And then what we understand right now is he was actually turning the doorknob when she fired through the door.
The bullet hit the intruder and he took off, but he only made it a short ways down the road.
He was sitting down. The policeman had him apprehended at the end of the block. And all I saw was some blood coming down his back. I'm not exactly sure where his injury was, but there was some blood there.
She's a proud mom who's thankful it ended the way it did, knowing her daughter is safe.
She's amazing, and I think she is. I think she's incredible, and I just haven't been able to stop hugging her and kissing her and telling her how much I love her.
Authorities identified the suspect as 32-year-old Stacy Jones. The undersheriff in Bryan County says Jones was airlifted to a Texas hospital, but this afternoon he was released from that hospital and booked into the Bryan County Jail. Chris McKinnon, News 9.
All right.
There you go. One more example. And hold on. I've got more for you. It gets better. Hold on. Another little girl. Proof that kids can be around guns and not get killed. Okay, that's one of the reasons I specifically picked these out, to show you that guns and kids don't equal death all the time. Okay? That's what's being pushed on you with all of these school shootings and all of this violence. And remember, by the way, if this school shooting, again, if it turns out just to be an act of violence by a crazy individual, let us not forget the prescription medications and video games. Now, I play video games. Actually, I rarely play them anymore because I have too much. I understand what they are, and I just don't have time to do it anymore, really, and I've moved beyond it. But I understand from my own personal experience, video games themselves will train you. I know people that have learned how to shoot and qualified marksman or sharpshooter in the military, and they never shot a gun in their life, and they even credited using Call of Duty or Halo and Xbox and things like that to learning how to shoot, because it still teaches you hand-eye coordination, and you're technically, in your brain, you're using the gun sights, and you're looking through things. So remember, a lot of that stuff is based off of military simulators that the military does use to train infantry and other even special operations troops and stuff like that. And they're expanding the use of that type of thing. So don't think that the video games don't have something to do with it. I mean, one of the last Call of Duties, you're one of the levels, you're like a CIA guy trying to infiltrate the Russians or whatever, or some Russian terrorist organization, and you're walking through a Russian airport and randomly gunning down people in the Russian airport, just mowing them down with fully automatic weapons fire. And you're walking around as a terrorist, and you have your bulletproof vest on, and your job is to mow people down. I mean, there's people, if they get shot in the leg and like the other guys walk past them, if they don't execute them and they're still alive, they're laying there crying, "Oh, help me, help me, help me," and you're supposed to shoot them. What do you think that does to a child's brain? What do you think that does to a young person's mind? They know it affects adults and makes adults aggressive. How many times have you seen 4 grown men playing Halo or Call of Duty, and they're screaming and they're throwing the controllers and everything else? Where do you think the aggression comes from? It builds up. I've seen it myself. It comes out of nowhere. I wonder why. Because we're being played, okay? So there's more to it. But they'll never ban video games. They'll never ban anything else. They always go after the guns because they have an agenda. They need you to be a victim. And more evidence that with a gun, you and even a child cannot be a victim, but defend yourself. Check this out.
Here's the kind of story that makes you say, yes. A trio of would-be burglars picked the wrong Albuquerque house to break into. Police say when the 3 teens pried open the door, a brave little girl was waiting for them, locked and loaded. Here's News 13's Maria Medina.
I was holding it like this and like that.
11-year-old Alyssa Gutierrez took matters into her own hands yesterday when 3 burglars broke into her home.
I was planning if they came right next to me, I would shoot them.
But Gutierrez never got the chance. Police say she spooked Miguel Marquez, Eduardo Zupiate, and Jesus Quintana.
My heart kept on pounding and pounding.
Gutierrez says minutes after her cousin Zachary left her home alone to run a quick errand, she heard the back door rattle.
I thought it was Zachary playing a joke on me, so I just turned the TV louder and ignored it.
The burglars pried open the door using a crowbar, but they had no idea that someone was home.
I slid.
Gutierrez says hiding didn't do any good. The masked intruders who stood just a few feet away saw her.
They had a rifle, so I was thinking, what should I do? What if they shoot me?
That's when she made a beeline for her mother's room.
And I ran back in my mom's room and grabbed her little pink rifle, and there was 2 bullets in there.
With a loaded rifle, Gutierrez says she checked the rooms in her home, ready to defend herself.
It's a 1-shot bullet, so.
While Gutierrez protected her home, she had no idea the suspects had jumped the fence and that an off-duty APD officer spotted them. Gutierrez feels lucky. Just a few days ago, she learned how to shoot a rifle.
I felt proud of myself.
In Albuquerque, Maria Medina, KRQE News 13.
Police arrested the 3 teens and their alleged getaway driver minutes after the break-in. The family says they know one of the suspects, and they think that the suspects wanted to steal their guns.
Oh, isn't that interesting? But the little girl was able to defend herself, 11 years old. So proof that kids can be around guns and that guns won't just jump up and randomly kill them, okay? You're being taught to be afraid of it. You're being programmed if you believe that stuff. You don't have to like guns. I'm not saying that your kid should be exposed to firearms. I mean, that's your choice whether or not you practice your Second Amendment right. I urge you to practice your Second Amendment right because if you don't practice it, you're going to lose it. But I'm not going to, yell at you and scream at you and tell you should love guns. Blah. You know what happened today was a horrific thing. And it's a natural reaction for people to be mad and emotional and angry because, I mean, that seeing that, especially if you have children, will evoke emotions in you like, my God, if that were my kid, I would lose it. I wouldn't know what to do. I understand those emotions. And then what they do is, and they being the mainstream media, the powers that shouldn't be, people with an agenda, right? And they're all on the same team. So what they do is they understand how the human psyche works. They understand how your brain works way better than you or me or most other people because they've studied it, right? And it's not that it's that complex to understand, but they understand it way better than most people do. The general populace has no idea. So they manipulate everyone. They manipulate emotion. So even if this thing was not staged, I'm not saying it was, so let's say it's not, say it's a random act of violence. Like Rahm Emanuel said, that's why I played that clip. Never let a good crisis go to waste. This would be considered a crisis. So they're going to go out and they're going to use this to try to push a political agenda. How does that political agenda bring those children back? And how does that political agenda stop a future event like this from happening? It doesn't. How about all the little kids at Waco that were killed by the government? Many of the same people that were in that administration are in this administration, like the Attorney General, Eric Holder. How about the fact that they used shaped charges on a room they called the Vault, where the women and children were hiding out away from the fire and away from the bullets and stuff because it was thick. And they found the hole on the roof of it was blown inward with a shaped charge, and that's what killed everybody in the room because it overpressurizes the room. And if you're in a little box and you introduce a high amount of pressure like that, because that's pretty much what an explosion does, even though there's some a little bit of flame or whatever, you still have the concussive force, which is the explosive force. You put it inside of a metal box, what does it do? It bounces around inside the metal box. What do you think that does to the humans that are inside the metal box? It turns them to goo. Well, that is a military-type weapon. That's a shaped charge. That's done specifically to do things like that and affect damage like that. Anti-personnel. Why would you use that on women and children? But where's the rage over that? Oh, there isn't. It was at David Koresh, right? Because he was a pedophile, right? And he was all this stuff. And I don't want to get too sidetracked, but do you see my point? They found a scapegoat for that, and it was, they're crazy cult, blah, 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 blah. But it was the government that killed those people. What about all the kids that die in drone strikes? Where's the outrage at that? Where's the outrage at the Iraqi children that are dead? Or the Afghani kids? Or the Pakistani kids? Or the Yemeni kids? Or how about all the little things that we foment all over the world with the CIA? What about all those children and all those innocent men and women that have died? What about all them? I'm not trying to say that and diminish the death of any of the people in this, but this country gets selectively pissed off about things. It's really sad. It's really a sad state of affairs that we get selectively pissed off. And as a side note, by the way, when things were different 50 years ago, and you can ask anybody that's in their 60s or their 70s, even if in their 50s, they should be old enough to remember this, even if they were little kids. You didn't have mass school shootings 50 years ago, and kids actually carried more guns around than they do today. You didn't have kids going into school and pulling out a rifle and shooting everybody up. When my dad was a kid, they used to go hunting before they'd go to school. They'd have their shotguns in their cars. It wasn't anything for him to be running around with his friends with his shotgun at 5 o'clock in the morning and a flashlight going and hunting down in the meadows. And this was before, like 2-3 hours before they had to be at school. There wasn't any, oh my God, the kid's got a gun, he's going to hurt himself. How do you think people ate back in like the 1800s and stuff? How do you think, even the 1700s and, since guns were invented, how do you think people ate? And I bring that up because they always say, well, hunting, which obviously I showed you the video how they were told, look, you give your handguns in, but we'll never go after the age-old tradition of fox hunting. And now they're at the point of shooting the video, they were trying to ban fox hunting because of the firearms. Do you see how they say, oh, we're not going to do that. We promise we're not going to take your guns. Okay, we're going to take your guns. But we promise that the police will be there to protect you, and so will the government. Although the Supreme Court has already ruled, and you can go look this up, I think it was back in like 2007. We'll say between 2007 and now, right? So it's sometime within the past 5 years. I can't remember the exact year. Just look it up. The Supreme Court has ruled that the cops don't have a duty to protect you. So who are they, quote, unquote, protecting and serving? That's why after that ruling, many cops, many police departments, not the cops themselves, but many police departments, I mean, maybe the cop did it himself under orders, but departments as a whole removed to protect and serve from the side of their police cars. Gee, I wonder why. Because they're not required to protect and serve you. Police are there to investigate and clean up. Okay, I speak from personal experience. When I ran a tattoo shop in a pretty rough portion of South Beach, believe it or not, yes, that there is such a thing. And it was like where all the shootings and most of the muggings and happened, and there was a lot of drug dealers around there. It was like this shady section, and that's where the place I worked at happened to be. And we had issues with people all the time. And I only called the cops once, and the first time I called the cops, they showed up in like an hour and a half later. And the person was already gone, and the cop said to me flat out, you deal with the problem. We don't like showing up immediately because, we don't want to deal with the crap. So the way we do it is we wait, and then we roll up like 45 minutes or an hour later, and by that time the two people are they've beaten the crap out of one another or they're gone. And he said, so basically, look, honestly, you guys are a business here? He said, handle, because we had an alleyway right on the side. He said, beat the crap out of them, throw them in the alleyway, and then call us. So we did just that. I mean, this was the police force telling us this. And you can ask anybody that's worked with me, okay, or anybody that's worked in South Beach and called the police. They could tell you that they just don't show up. They don't come, barging through the door in 30 seconds. We're here to save the day. It's not how it works. In fact, my next example, sometimes it's the citizens that help the police out. How so? Well, a couple months back, there's a guy named Vic Stacy, and he noticed that this police officer was engaged in a firefight with a guy who had one of the local residents who had gone, off the deep end, and he was walking around with an AR-15. He had shot his neighbor, his neighbor's wife, and the two dogs, killed them, all four of them. And then the responding police officer, that guy didn't even get up out of his car, and he was taking fire. So the responding officer was able to get, behind the car to get some cover, but a car isn't really any cover when you're using rifles like that. And this guy Vic Stacy happened to see him, and long story short, he dropped this guy, and if I remember correctly, it was something like 165 yards or something, and he helped take out the gunman with a pistol. He hit this guy with a pistol. And the sheriff even said that if he hadn't done it, that the officer would have been killed. I'll let you listen to the man himself, and he's very. What I respect about this guy is he's humble. He's not like, yeah, I killed that guy, blah blah blah. No, he's very humble about the fact that he had to take another human life. Listen to what this man has to say, and it's a little noisy in the beginning because they had a fan going, but they turned it off. So just kind of bear with it. But check this out.
Siren coming down the road, and about that time, then the police officer pulled in the park. And I thought that he was pulling in a little bit close because that guy already had the rifle propped up on that tree and was fixing to cut out on him, And I thought, well, I'm going to see what's going to happen here. And if I need to, get in on it. And so about that time, the officer got out of the car and he went shooting at him. And he ran around the back of the car. And I thought, man, he's fixing to kill that brother. And I thought, well, I think that guy's going to take him out if I don't help him out, And he was shooting with an AR-15, the cop was. And so he wasn't hitting him. But that tree was protecting him, the shooter. And I had a side view of that man the whole time, standing there, and I thought, I'm fixing to put one in him if I can. And I made a shot, I guess, probably, I managed a good 165 yards from where I was at. And I thought, man, I hope this Magnum bullet will hold up, that distance. And sure enough, it did, and I hit him in the thigh. And he went to the ground. And that disoriented him. And then he turned, and I saw him throw another shell in that rifle, and he pointed at me and cut out on me. And but he didn't hit me. He must have hit the ground because I was standing behind the wheel of this RV of Brown's. And I felt the rocks. I had on a pair of shorts, and I felt the rocks fly up and hit me on the leg. And it cut my left leg there a little bit. But anyway, then that's when I returned another shot, and I hit him again, and I put 3 more in him. And then by that time, that patrolman, he got 2 shots in him with that AR-15. And seemed like he's all over with then, because we got him down and killed him, And then about that time, then the DPS officer came in. I mean, he wheeled in there. I believe there was another. He might have been a deputy, one of the other boys. Anyway, they hollered at me and told me, said, put the gun down, get on the ground. And I did. They were going to handcuff me. Of course, they didn't know what was going on. And I laid there on the ground, I guess, probably 15, 20 minutes. And they finally got me up, took the cuffs off. And after they found out what was going on. And seemed like the deal was all over with then, we done got him down. So, it's been an ordeal. An average working person, and I don't want to be put in that range, I'm just a citizen trying to help an officer out. That's what I was trying to do. Because I think if it had kept going, he'd have probably killed the officer. And that's what all the other policemen out there, told me, said he thought it probably got him too. And that's about all I can say about it.
You see, what he was talking about was because you could see he's upset, and the cops were trying to console him and say, you did the right thing. And if you had intervened, sir, our officer, the first responding officer, would have been dead too. And this guy responded with a pistol, and he hit the dude at 165 yards. It's a hell of a shot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have put out the anti-fear today. That was my goal. It is horrible what happened to those poor innocent people, especially the innocent children. Anytime anything happens like that to children is horrific. Hug your kids tight tonight. Give your wife a kiss, give your husband a kiss. And if you have kids, hug them tight and keep them close. And just remember that, life is fragile. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. I'll catch you all again on Sunday. Don't buy into the fear.